Good evening. We are recording. Dorothy Boyd here. Happy TimeWise 3D launch day. It's May 10th. I'm wearing my new TimeWise t-shirt the company sent me on the road to a million miracles. I'm wearing my seminar necklace that you can earn when your unit meets its seminar registration goal. If you went to seminar last year, you may have earned these earrings that match it with the confetti charm on it. Love it. Sweet little necklace. And then I'm also wearing my Belief bracelet for this month. I really like this one. It's got a really pretty pearl. I don't know if y'all can see that, but on the end it's got a pearl accent. And then next to the Belief charm, there's a bee with little crystal wings. So the pearl accent and the crystal wings make this one really, really pretty. So anyway, I had all this on last week except for the t-shirt and forgot to show it to you. So I thought, okay, I've got to make sure I do that right at the front of the video this week. So last week, let's just do a quick review. Last week we talked about the 4 hats that we wear. The president, the secretary, the treasurer, and the beauty consultant. And we talked about how our thinking impacts our success even more than how we do any one of those 4 roles. So my question is, over the past week, did you find yourself becoming mindful of some of the things that we talked about last week and some of the things we compared and contrasted? For example, did you find yourself perhaps thinking more like an entrepreneur as opposed to an employee? Did you find yourself with more of an employee mindset, falling into that, or was it an entrepreneurial mindset? And we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight too. Have you caught yourself maybe thinking thoughts of scarcity and replace that with affirmations of abundance? Or maybe you've caught yourself starting to make an emotion-driven choice, and you said to yourself, wait a minute, I want to be one of those character-driven people, one of those duty-driven people, not emotion-driven. So I'm gonna choose X because it's the right thing to do, even though it may not be what I feel like doing right now. So as president of your own organization, which is what we talked a lot about last week, you're the decider. You're the decider. You're the decision maker. So for example, you're the one that gets to say to yourself, I'm going to invest in my future and my business and go to seminar this year. I'm going to make the necessary arrangements. I'm going to hold the appointments I need to pay for the trip if necessary, make arrangements for kids, whatever. I'm going to find a way or make a way. The president says that. And she says, okay, let me set a goal here for what my seminar win is going to be, what I'm going to achieve by June 30th, whether it's Princess Court or National Court or something that you're going to get a win to be celebrated at seminar, 4-quarter star, who knows what yours might be. Yours might be to be a red jacket or step up to be a sales director, but you're going to find that win that you're going to be recognized for at seminar. And you figure out, okay, what do I need to do to pay for this? Do I need to hold a certain number of faces, a certain number of parties? And you scratch all that out on paper. And then you say to your beauty consultant, all right, beauty consultant, it's time to get to work and get these booked and held. And then you put your beauty consultant hat on and say, yes, boss, and you start working. Okay, this is how these hats work. Okay, so the president is the decider. And tonight we're going to put on the secretary's hat. The secretary is the documenter. If the president's the decider, the secretary's the documenter. She's the preparer. The secretary is the documenter and the preparer. So she doesn't get to do the sexy jobs, but they're important. Executive National Sales Director Pam Shaw says, when opportunity presents itself, it's too late to get prepared. And I'm sure you've all been in that situation where maybe you've been out and about somewhere and you met a lady and she was either interested in the product or the opportunity, and you're going, oh my gosh, where are my business cards? I don't even have a book with me. Oh, if I only had, you ever had that happen? I know I've had that happen. So when you put on the secretary's hat, you're acknowledging that as far as your business is concerned, You care enough about it to get prepared. And you do things like sitting down and placing the order, finding and purchasing the plane ticket online, finding yourself a good deal for that, packing your party bags in a systematic way so that it's packed the same way every time and you know where to find things at your fingertips. You prepare those hostess and team building packets and they're at your fingertips. When you're in a class like this or at seminar, you're the one in there the secretary's in there taking really good notes. You're the secretary are filling out the weekly plan sheet on Wednesday before the week, and on Saturday night or Sunday at the end of the week, you're filling out the weekly accomplishment sheet that shows your sales and your activities. You keep track of what your clients order and when they order it. You ship off the orders in a timely way. You keep the office stocked with supplies, and you know how to find everything. You know your ratios, like what's my average sales per party, or my average sales per face, or what's my average reorders in a month or in a week. And the reason you know those things is you're a compulsive tracker and you keep track of it because it's a business. And you know that when you know those numbers, it's a real confidence builder, and you don't make this, it helps you be character driven rather than emotion driven. Because if you have a bad week, for example, granted, we're going to be maybe disappointed in that week, but if we know that if we hold X amount of appointments over the course of a month, we're going to have a really good week to make up for the bad week because we know what our averages are. So our downs aren't so down and our ups aren't so up because we can play the numbers and win if we know what our ratios are. Now, here's the good news. If all that sounds like a lot of boring stuff you don't want to do, the good news is a lot of that can be delegated, and it should be delegated. A lot of it is behind the scenes task work that is time consuming, and it's basically minimum wage type activity. I mean, let's face it, anybody that's 10 years old can unpack an order and put product stickers on and put the product up on the shelves where it needs to go. Alphabetical order or consultant order sheet order. I think stocking your shelves in, oops, my book just fell. Sorry about that. I think stocking your shelves in the order that the products are on the consultant order sheet is what makes total sense. But anyway, however you do it. And a lot of that in putting together hostess packets and packing for a class and unpacking and cleaning mirrors, you can hire a child to do it. You can hire a neighbor to do it. You can hire a customer who could use some extra money to do it. That's the good news. The bad news is that too many beauty consultants and directors are still doing those things. And because they are spending time doing $8 an hour jobs, it's taking time and energy away from the $50 an hour jobs of booking and holding appointments and recruiting people. And Mary Kay always said, don't waste dollar time doing penny jobs, but we do it, and we do it for a few reasons. And so I think the first reason that we continue to do those things is we like that feeling of accomplishment of crossing something off the list. It's something we can control. We don't have to face any rejection to do it. And we can cross an item off the list. But that's what's called confusing activity with accomplishment. Because think about it. What if you hired a teenager in your neighborhood for 2 hours on a weeknight between 7 and 9 to clean your mirrors and pack your bags or unpack your order, and she did it for product, and during that 2 hours, you were on the phone calling customers for reorders or on the phone booking parties? You'd be making $50 an hour while she's getting lip gloss. Now, which makes more sense as a businesswoman? Which would be the character-driven choice, okay? And so here's what I want y'all to do. Remember last week when I started off and I said, you know, I'm going to shoot y'all real straight on some things, but I don't want anybody to feel like I'm stepping on your toes because everything I'm feeding you, I've already had to eat. So don't take any of this as judgmental, okay? But So I'm about to make a very brutally honest statement. And the reason I'm going to make a very brutally honest statement is I want to hit you right between the eyes on this, because it's a common mistake I see many consultants make, and in fact, even more directors make. And it breaks my heart. And that is this. The reason we keep doing those jobs and those types of jobs is that we're either too prideful, too cheap, or too lazy to hire somebody. We're too prideful, too cheap, or too lazy to delegate that work. Now, I'm hitting you between the eyes with 3 hard words: prideful, cheap, and lazy. Prideful, because we think nobody can do it as well as we do it. Cheap, we don't want to spend the money, or we say, I can't afford to hire somebody right now. Lazy, we understand the value of hiring people and that person will way more than pay for herself. We're just too lazy to get on the phone and do some research and find somebody that can do that work for us or interview them. And all 3 of those things, nobody can do it as well as I can. I can't afford to hire help. And, oh, it's too much trouble. I'll just do it myself. It's easier just to do it myself. Those are limiting beliefs. Those are examples of limiting beliefs about time, that it's easy to sell to yourself, very easy to justify. But if you'll remember last week's class, the very first thing I said is we're going to identify and address limiting beliefs in all these areas of time, money, and emotional management that impact your success, not just in Mary Kay, but in life. So here's the key question. If you're going to keep doing those jobs, here's the question to always ask yourself. Is this decision to keep, for example, to keep doing it myself, is this decision I'm about to make, as the president, I'm the decision maker, so I'm the one deciding this. Is this decision taking me closer to my dreams, or is it keeping me stuck in the past? And if it's keeping me stuck in the past, how much longer am I going to choose bondage over freedom? Is the decision I'm making to do these mundane maintenance tasks that don't grow my business, they just maintain it? Is this decision to keep doing these time-consuming, mundane maintenance tasks that are necessary? I must be prepared. I must be organized. They're essential. But if I keep doing them, is it going to keep me stuck in the past? And if it is, how much longer am I going to choose bondage over freedom? Remember what I said last week. I said that what you build today and how you build it will either empower or restrict your tomorrow. It will either empower or restrict your tomorrow. The choices that you make will either serve as a platform on which you can take your business to the next level of success, or it will serve as a box keeping you right where you are. So let's not underestimate the importance of delegation. Now, one key to living with peace, and I'm all about living with peace, and I think anybody who's over 40 has understood that, you know, there's a lot of stuff we don't need anymore that's not important to us anymore. We just want peace. I mean, if you're over 40 and you can relate to that, raise your hand. And maybe some of you younger or have a lot more wisdom than I did in my 20s and 30s when peace was not top of my priority list. But one key of living with peace is to trust the Mary Kay process, as we talked about last week, even before you see results. And by that, what I mean is, if you think, well, when I can afford it, I'll hire help. No, you have to hire the help first, and then you'll be able to afford it. So you have to trust that process before you see the results. The Mary Kay process says you must be organized. As a matter of fact, when Mary Kay was alive and she was asked, what's the single most important quality for success in a beauty consultant, and what's the one thing that will hold them back? These were her answers. If she said, what's the most important quality for success? She said enthusiasm. And if she said, what's the one thing that can cause her to fail? She'll say a lack of organization. So you must be organized. That's essential. That's part of the process. You must, but you don't have to be the one doing the organizing. You know, in Mary Kay's old school way, you know, back in the 60s when women did all the housework, she said she learned that her husband liked his shirts ironed, starched and ironed, but she didn't have to be the one doing the ironing. She just had to make sure it got done. Okay, so it is your job as the president to make sure that these things get done. So yes, you need to know how to do them because you've got to hire the secretary or the assistant to do them, but you don't have to keep doing that, because my deal is if you come to work for me, you don't get to quit till you train the next gal who's going to take your place. That's why when beauty consultants call me and say, okay, I've had a customer return a product. Now, how do I do that to get that product replaced at the company? I say, I don't know. I haven't done that in 30 years. I don't even know how. I mean, it's done online. Ask Melissa. She knows. You know where Melissa learned? She learned from Diana, my secretary before Melissa. Okay, and Diana learned from Cheryl, and Cheryl learned from Monica, and Monica learned from Julie. You see what I'm saying? This is the way this thing works. I've had help the whole time. The whole time I've had help. Okay, so Mary Kay process says not only must you be organized, but you must be prepared. But you don't have to, you got to hire the preparer to do the task work. You got to be prepared. In other words, if a customer calls you and says, hey, I want 2 hydrate botanicals in Formula 1 for dry skin, do you have them? You need to be able to go to your shelf and count, yes or no, I have them or I don't have them. Okay? And so you got to be prepared. You can't think, oh my gosh, I haven't even unpacked that last order. This happens. I know it does. And again, you must be a tracker, because only a track number grows. But if you want to hire somebody else to do some of the tracking for you, you can. There is tracking that's essential for you. You track the essential goals, and the company keeps track of a lot of things. But if you're not even doing a weekly accomplishment sheet, nothing's getting tracked. And so that's the first line of what you got to track, is what you sell, is the weekly accomplishment sheet. I mean, you got to do it for your taxes anyway. Every profitable business keeps excellent records. So the Mary Kay process says you got to be a good record keeper. When I worked at Rich's in high school and college, I worked in ladies sportswear, and I often worked the late shift, and so would close the register. And as soon as we'd close the register at night after the store was closed, the first thing the manager of our department, or the assistant manager, whoever was there that night, she would come to the cash register, and she would run a sales ticket showing our sales for our department that day. And then she also had a list of what inventory had gone off the floor, because then she would need to somehow rearrange the inventory, restock the inventory. She knew what we sold every single day. That's the way every business in America runs. And so I don't get it when a beauty consultant doesn't do a weekly accomplishment sheet. I don't get it, except to interpret that as, this is just a hobby with her. This is not a business for her. It's just a hobby. She doesn't really care what she sells. But you know what? I don't think you'd be taking this class if you really felt that way. Another thing about paperwork, I've never met anybody that liked it. But there's a certain amount, it takes a certain amount of paper to move people. It takes paper to move people. Now, if you're coming out of teaching school or being a nurse, you're going to think the paperwork in Mary Kay is a piece of cake. If you come out of a high paperwork industry, we have very little paperwork. All right. So let's just be excited that we just have a little bit of paperwork and have a great attitude about it. Because tonight, I hope to help you fall in love with the paper that I fell in love with it in 1983 that has served me well ever since. Would y'all be excited if I just gave you a few pieces of paper, a few tools that literally have caused me to absolutely nail this skill of time management since I was a brand new red jacket and got this at my first company function in 1983. And it's carried me all the way to national, and I still use it today. Does that reassure you? Okay, all right. It's kind of old school. It's old school. So if you think, well, I can't do technology, don't worry. There's nothing technological about this. And if you are high tech, I'm sure that there's apps and high tech things you can do to do this in a more modern way, but you don't have to. And I like my old school way. The important thing is here, ladies, when you work for yourself, you must create your own structure. When you work for someone else, they create the structure. If you're going to be successfully self-employed, you create your own structure. Now, the beauty of that is you get to decide when and how much you want to work and with whom you want to work, when you want to be on, when you want to be off. But flexibility doesn't mean you don't work. It means you choose when to work and you create the schedule and the structure of your day and your week around your priorities and your preferences. My first big company function was what would eventually come to be Career Conference. And it was held in the wintertime here in Atlanta in 1983. I happened to be a brand new red jacket. And when we had 2 breakout classes. The second breakout class was taught by a then top director named Doris Yonke. Doris Yonke. She is now a retired national, but at the time she was a sales director. And these were the first 2 times I ever heard directors teach other than my own director. And I was in there with one of those great big flat cassette players. Remember those? And they had the little pop-up thing and you'd slip the cassette in. I took that big old thing in with batteries and I had my cassette tapes, clapped it down, and I taped Doris's class. And then I listened to that tape over and over and over and over. In my handwriting on the outside, the name of the class was Goals, Priorities, and Planning Your Time by Doris Yonke. Goals, Priorities, and Planning Your Time. And I listened to it over and over and over and over. And she gave out a handout that day. It's still here. And I still use an iteration of it. Have from that day forward. All right. Now, the first thing I want to say before I tell you Doris's story is that everything I'm going to teach you about how I create structure, it's all self-contained. My Mary Kay stuff, my family stuff, my personal stuff, it's all on the same piece of paper. There's not a separate calendar for my personal life and Mary Kay. There's not a separate to-do list from my family and for Mary Kay. It's all in one place. You need to be self-contained. Everybody with me on that? Okay. The first thing that Doris did before she taught us about goals, priorities, and planning her time was share that she had gotten her 1099 and that she had just found out, and this was in 1982, she had made $103,000 as a Mary Kay sales director in 1982. Well, now that got my attention, because my last year teaching school, which was 1981-82, school year 81-82, and that school year I had made $13,000 as a school teacher. So for someone to stand up there and say they'd made $103,000, that was jaw-dropping to me. And she said that this sheet that she was going to teach us from was tied into that. All right. Now, I actually have this for y'all on our homework. So we're going to do a little screen sharing, and let me show you what it is. So hold on just a second. Let's see. Share screen. All right, we're over here. Let's see, which one's Doris Yonke's? I think this one's Doris's. Okay. Over here, in the Thinking for a Change page of boydarea.com, I actually have 4 sheets here. One's called Daily Organizational Worksheet, one's called Consultant Daily Call Sheet, one's called Consultant Daily Plan Worksheet, Dot's Brain Plan Worksheet. This is 4 different versions of the same thing. The reason I've given you 4 versions is so that you can look at the different versions and go, okay, which one do I like the best? Which way does my brain work? Which way can I operate? Because everybody works a little differently. But we're going to start with Doris's original. All right, so this really should say 1983. It doesn't matter. It's timeless. Consultant Daily Call Sheet 2018 is very close to the one that Doris showed us back then. And what she said was she had one of these for each day of the month. So 30 of them. And It looked kind of like this. And then on the back, she had, you know, it started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and every 15 minutes there was the times down the left and then the lines where you could time activate the day. But she had a sheet like this, a chart, a worksheet, if you will. So the day of the week would go up here. And she only had one 6 most important things, not 2. This one has a business 6 most important things and a personal, but hold on just a minute. Now this was the same. She had a box for customers, for calling customers, for reorders, and space for 1 through 5, and then 2 columns, attempted, reached. She had a box for prospective bookings, 1 through 5. Again, attempted, reached. She had a box for prospective recruits, 1 through 5, attempted, reached. Top right-hand corner, like I said, she didn't have 2 separate 6s lists. She only had 1, but this particular one that I had in my files did. She had team member or director contact. Now she says, if you don't have very many team members, obviously you're not going to use this one every day. But if you're a sales director, you might be calling 3 of your unit members a day. So anyway, she had team member, director contact, attempted, reached. She had notes to write, 2. And then she had a space that she could do callbacks from, you know, callbacks or errands to run, just notes. Now, here's what Doris said. She said, even though there's space for 5 in each boxes, and some boxes have 3, some boxes have 2, just depending upon what my goals were, or perhaps, you know, what I wanted to accomplish that month, my goal might be, or in this case, your customer base. If you've got a very large customer base, you might have enough customers to call 5 a day. But you might have a very small customer base and only want to call 1 a day. But she says she had a goal for however many customers she was going to call per day that month. She had a goal for how many bookings she was going to call that day or contact that day, each day that month. And for some of you, you know, it needs to be 1 through 10 as bookings because you don't have any customers yet. Okay. Prospective recruits, she said it might be 2 one month, 3 another month, 5 another month. So whether or not she used all 5 of these lines just depended upon her goals, but she had a goal for each one. And so her goal was to meet that number that she had set for herself in each of these areas. And at the end of the day, if she met her goal of reaching out to contact these people, whether she reached them or not, she made the attempt. If she met her goal to call, you know, 2 customers a day, 5 people for bookings a day, 1 prospective recruit a day, 1 team member per day, write 1 note a day. Okay, let's say that was her goal. If she met that goal, she put a gold star on the calendar. That was her daily win. And she said, then I noticed that the months that had the most gold stars, I made the most money. Okay, now I'm going to close this for just a minute. And I'm going to show you that there's different iterations of this. Let's see. If you look at this one, it's just structured a little bit differently, but it's very similar. Here's one that I used a few years ago when I was on Weight Watchers, okay? And I had some real key daily behaviors I wanted to hit every day. Okay, you see Weight Watchers mobile there, Voxer. This is what I mean by a time-sensitive piece, where Doris has had this on the back, where once you decided what you were going to do, then she decided on the back page when she was going to do it. And I really like having this piece on mine. And so I've actually got a section for delegation, for notes, what needs to happen on the computer, and my actual food choices, what I was going to eat. Because with my health challenges, I have to be very, very conscious about what I eat. All right, so that was important for me to have on my sheet. And then the one that I pretty much use now is very, very flexible. So basically there's the time sensitivity down the left where you've got from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And there's really just 4 sections: MK important, personal and family, Mary Kay urgent, miscellaneous, and then on the back there's a space for notes and contacts. Okay, now I'm going to close this back up, and I think y'all get the idea. But what you do is you have a book like this. I call it my brain book. Ta-da! See this zippered thing? And these pages are in here. And I work those pages and cross things off every day. And what doesn't get done gets moved forward to another day. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but that's basically how it works. But I want to get back to what Doris taught me, because as soon as she said, the days I had the most gold stars, the months I had the most gold stars were the months I made the most money. That was a life-changing moment, because at that moment, my whole thinking changed from employee mindset to entrepreneurial mindset right there. Because I connected the dots between my daily phone calls to customers or potential recruits and my paycheck. That tiny daily activity of reaching out and attempting to connect with someone became an investment of time. It was a tiny little ingredient. And that these daily contacts were the daily ingredients that would add up to a great paycheck at the end of the year, a great paycheck at the end of the month. And while I could not control who answered the phone, while I could not control whether she said yes or no, I could control how many I contacted and what I said and how I said it. So I could control the number of contacts, what I said, and how I said it. And if I could control that, I could control my paycheck, I could control my future, I could control my outcome. And suddenly, every daily contact became an investment of time, regardless of whether I got a yes or a no. And the blessing came in the doing and the meeting the number goal in each of those categories each day. So each day I could lay my head on the pillow, regardless of whether I got yeses or nos, had big sales, low sales. What happened? I could lay my head on the pillow if I met my daily goal and I got my daily win. And you know what? Doris was absolutely right. Because those successful days added up to successful weeks. And the successful weeks added up to successful months. And the successful months added up to successful quarters. And the successful quarters added up to successful annual incomes. And that's how I went from $13,000 a month to $13,000 a year with this one piece of paper. Now, remember, as an employee, I went and taught school, and I got a paycheck for teaching high school kids art. But I only got paid for those hours one time. There was no residual income. But every time I worked my Mary Kay business, there was going to be a residual payoff. I just couldn't see it. Now, before you get to the daily call sheet, though, you have to start with the appointment book. So here's the Mary Kay date book. Sorry, here's my original Mary Kay date book that came in my beauty case. I still have it, okay? Some of you like to work small like this. Some of you like to work with 8.5 by 11. Some of you may already have a system like this, like Pam Shaw's Design Your Life book, which I have used before, and it's an excellent tool, and it's small like this. I prefer to work with 8.5 by 11 pages just because I write big, My eyesight's not great, even now I've had implants. I don't have to wear contacts or anything anymore, but I like to spread out. You know, when I was an artist, I made a big mess. And a lot of our handouts are 8.5 by 11. I just 3-hole punch things. Everything goes in here. It's in a zippered, what I call a brain book. And I would open my date book, which was a week at a glance, and I would open it like this on one side, and I would work my daily call sheet on the other. Okay, so I always had my date book with me. Your Mary Kay date book, whether you use the one that came in your kit or that comes on section 2, or I think I've showed y'all now, I like this flat one that I get from Staples, which is a month at a glance. Okay, and it fits inside the front cover of my brain book. So it's in here. That date book goes with you everywhere but the shower. So if you're one of those people that likes to go small, you know, you might work with a smaller piece. What I do is I have a lot of tote bags and large purses that'll fit my big old heavy brain book. And then I have a little crossbody purse inside that I can put my keychain and my ID and credit cards and my phone, and then pull out the crossbody and leave everything else in the car, because I literally don't go anywhere without this brain book. If I'm going to church, it stays in the car. Okay? If I go shopping, it's in the car. If I go from the upstairs of the house to the downstairs of the house, a lot of times it follows me. But that brain book, my calendar goes with me everywhere. So I always have it, and so anytime I can schedule an appointment, I want to be able to do that. So if you have ever been in a position where you could have scheduled a facial, you could have scheduled a career chat, but you didn't because you didn't have your date book with you, shame on you. Never let that happen again. You better go get some Velcro and put some Velcro on your chest and Velcro that date book right to you, because you go nowhere but the shower. You Velcro that date book to you. So the whole family calendar gets written in here first. So I keep pulling up the Mary Kay one because that's what y'all have, but I want y'all to imagine this is mine. So everything that I do gets written in here first. All right. So everything having to do with my family, my doctor's appointments, election days on the 22nd when we're going to be in Rome, when my girlfriends are coming over next Saturday, my kids are coming over for Mother's Day Sunday, even when my favorite TV shows need to be taped. It's all in here, okay? It's called a brain book for a reason. I can't, it's too stressful to try to remember all this stuff. So if it's important to me, oh yeah, Carol's bringing the cake next Saturday. I don't have to bake it for my friend Terry. Everything's in here. On Wednesday, I sit down and I open up to next week and I do my weekly plan sheet for next week. All right, my weekly plan sheet for next week. Now let's go back to screen sharing again, because what we're going to do is we're going to go back to boydarea.com. Oops, sorry. And I have changed the weekly plan sheet that was in here. I really didn't realize that my webmistress had put that weekly plan sheet with the color coding and all the instructions about IPAs in it. I really just meant for her to put this blank weekly plan sheet in there. All right. This one. Because I don't care how you color code it. You know, that's up to you. Your director may even have you do different colors. All right. But this is the blank weekly plan sheet. So yesterday, somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday, I will go ahead and put the days in for next week, what it's the week of, and I will block in all the times that are committed to something. And then that shows me where I can combine errands and save time. It shows me where I'm missing bookings, and I've got between Wednesday and Friday that I can get on the phone and get the rest of it booked. What happens on Saturday at the end of the week, because it's about to go on the refrigerator for Sunday, is I'll turn it over on the back where it's blank, and I'll use it as a brain dump for all the things coming up in that new week that really don't have a scheduled space. but I'm responsible for seeing they get done. So I just dump it all out in a big list, or any debris from the prior week that didn't get finished that really wasn't urgent and may not have even been all that important, but I'd kind of like to do it maybe if I have some discretionary time and choose to. So I'll dump all that out on the back, and then I'll look at that list and go, okay, what on this list do I have to be the one to do? Nobody else can do it for me. What do I have to do? And it has to be done this week. And then I'll find when it's the best time for it to happen. What's on this list that has to be done, but I don't have to be the one to do it? And then I'll make lists and delegate them out, either to Melissa, my assistant, Keith, my husband, or my adult son, Brian, who lives here. But different people get different lists. Okay. And then, and if you don't have a husband, if you live alone, then again, you can hire a neighbor. You can hire, if you have no one in your family that lives in your house, you can delegate to. Then, you can hire a customer or a teenager or someone, a nephew, a niece, somebody. Trust me, there are plenty of people out there that want some money or want free product. They'll come help you out. But you delegate what has to be done that you don't have to be the one to do. All right, now you've got your weekly plan sheet. Before it goes up on the refrigerator, though, to be a timesheet for the people that live with you and need to understand that, yes, you do work, and this is your schedule this week, and the whole family calendar is on here. I mean, if Junior's got to get to baseball practice over here, and your husband's going to be out of town here and here for his work, and so-and-so has piano lessons here, the whole family calendar goes on here. You can even put your family meals. You can pre-plan your family meals. I used to do that when I was in charge of the food, back before my husband became a chef. I would plan out the meals, and that would give me an opportunity to buy in bulk and save money and time that way, and I wouldn't have to make the decision about what was going to get cooked. And if it was going to be something like chili or soup or spaghetti, I could double or triple batch it and freeze the extra batch or two. And so that's just learning how to be very efficient. Because keep in mind, when I started doing this process, I was a young mother with an infant and a husband working full time. And then as a fairly young sales director, I had 2 more children. So at that point, I had 2 in diapers and a 6, 7, 8-year-old. And then they all got to that age where they were involved in everything. And then they got a little bit older and they were still involved in stuff, and nobody drives yet. And then we went through the homeschooling years. And so, trust me, I've been through it all. And I've used these same systems all these years. So the weekly plan sheet. I don't know how many of you were at top 5, but my son Brian was our DJ, and I called over to him and I said, Brian, he turned 31 yesterday. I said, Brian, how many times in your life have you ever known there not to be a weekly plan sheet on the refrigerator? And he said, I can't think of a single time, not a single week. And I'll tell you how long I've been using a brain book, since before he was born. And it used to say brain book on the outside of the binder. And when he was learning to read, he came up, his name's Brian, and he started sounding it out. And he said, Mama, why do you have a Brian book? And I said, sound it out, read it again. And he said, oh, brain book. Why do you have a brain book? He was 5. And I said, because my brain can't remember all this stuff. I need something to help me remember. Okay, so I want to reassure you that regardless of what season of life you're in, this level of structure teaches something to your kids. It says something to your family that you're serious about what you're doing. And if you don't put the schedule up, they don't know where, when you're working. But when you put the schedule up, they know when Mama's working. And, back in the 80s, before we had cell phones, if I was late getting home from a party, we didn't have cell phones. The hostess's phone number was there. If my husband got worried about it, he could call the hostess and say, hey, you still at the party? You're not, lost somewhere. It's important. Okay, let me stop this sharing here again. Okay, let's get back to, once the weekly plan sheet's done, then I open up my brain book to the individual pages, And everything, oh, let me go back here. I said I was going to stop screen sharing and I shouldn't have. Let me go back. Okay, all the Sunday stuff that's here gets written on the Sunday page. The Monday stuff gets time activated on the Monday page. The Tuesday, the Wednesday. So now you've got 7 pages in your drain book for this week. And everything that you can prepare for. So if you've got a party over here on Thursday, then you back up over here on Monday and Tuesday, and this is when you're doing your pre-profiling. Do y'all see what I mean about once you've got it planned out on the week, then you're dividing it up between your daily tasks and backing it up. Or you're saying, oh, Friday, I'm going to be on that side of town. I can make that delivery when I'm over there. Or if you're not going to be on that side of town, you can go, you know, that's an awful long way to go out of my way just to deliver that. I can just put that in the mail. Because truly, beauty consultants, if you're not going to see that customer face-to-face and have an opportunity to upsell her or be introduced to other people, maybe her colleagues at work or some family members while you're there, you might as well mail it because time is money and you don't have time to be doing deliveries. But if you're going to be able to take other products and upsell her or deliver it at work where you can meet some of her coworkers and get some referrals, then it might be worth the trip. Okay, so then you break it down into what's going to be done each day. All right, now I'm going to stop the sharing for just a minute. Okay, at night, you go to that 6 most important things list on the page. So here I am. I'm about to cross off Zoom Live. You know, there's still something I have to do, though, after I teach this Zoom Live. Is I have to upload it to YouTube so the people that aren't watching in real time have a recording. So that's still on my list to make sure that playback gets prepared and posted by tomorrow, which is when I promised it. But everything else on my page is crossed off today. But if it wasn't, and usually it's not, honestly, then I just go, okay, like if I didn't feel like posting it tonight, I would do it first thing in the morning. Okay, and I would move it forward if I, for some reason, didn't feel good or, you know, y'all got it. But I don't have to decide each day what I'm going to do because the list is already written. It's like you don't have to decide what to cook when you get home from work because the decision was already made. You don't have to decide in your business what you're going to do because the decision was already made. That you were going to reach out to 2 customers a day. That you were going to reach out to 5 bookings a day. It's just a matter of getting on the phone and crossing it off and getting it done. And then laying your head on the pillow at night going, I did my job today. I earned my money today. Now, you may not have the money in hand yet, or you may have had cash flow that exceeded your wildest dreams. But if you did those key daily behaviors, you put the sticker on the calendar. And the 6 most important things list, you just review, okay, now what are the 6 most important things I have to do tomorrow? And you just review that before you go to bed. I was surprised at how many of you pulled that out of Amy Kemp's class is what you got out of it. Because, you know, honestly, I don't even remember hearing her say that. But you know what? It wouldn't have resonated with me because it's a habit I've had for 36 years. I can see where it would have resonated with those of you for whom it's not a habit yet. But at night before you go to bed, you open your daily call sheet, you look at what tomorrow is, and remember, it's not just checking off 6 things, but what are the most important things? It's supposed to be the 6 most important things. So then that word priorities has to come in there. Remember, the class was goals, priorities, and planning your time. So looking at that 6's list, what's the one thing, the most important thing that needs to be done tomorrow that's going to move my business forward? It's not maintenance work. It's growth work. It's not packing your bags. It's people work. It's the new booking. It's the hostess. It's the prospective team member. It's not the old customer or the old team member that's the priority. It's the new. The new is where the growth is going to come from. So if you have a choice of, oh, I've got 5 people to call, who do I call first? You always call where you're going to find new growth, new faces, new career chats. That's always the first call. That's the priority. That's also the scariest because that's the one that's going to put you at most risk for rejection, right? So that's the ones we tend to procrastinate on. But we have to be faithful there. Mother Teresa said, be faithful in the small things, for that's where your strength lies. Have you ever heard the phrase, eat your frog for breakfast and the rest of the day will be a breeze? That means do the hard thing first. Do the part, either do the part you don't like first, or the thing you've been resisting most likely is the one thing you need to do. And I know Amy said something to that effect in her class, because she said something like probably the one thing that you're most resistant of is the one thing you need to do. That may have resonated with you. But here's examples of priority activities that might be on your sixes list. Your miracle morning activities. Miracle morning activities. If you did our Pacesetter in the fall on the Miracle Morning, you know what that is. If not, it's a great book. I highly recommend The Miracle Morning. The Miracle Morning is things like your daily quiet time, prayer, meditation, devotion. It includes your exercise, your visualizations, affirmations. It's those key daily habits that keep you inspired, motivated, energized, and healthy. Okay? Another thing that might be on that list is book 2 new selling appointments. Booking a day keeps poverty away, ladies. And we are not paid well for what we do occasionally. We're paid for what we do consistently. I have never done huge things in this business. I've never been the queen of anything. Now, if there was a consistency throne at seminar, I'd be sitting in it. But let me tell you, it's a whole lot easier to work this way with consistency than to go Zoom, eek, Zoom, eek. And most beauty consultants are Zoom-eekers. They Zoom, and then, it's either full speed ahead or dead stop. And it's so much easier just to work consistently. It's so much less stressful. Book, hold, or close your career chat is a great thing to have on your list. Either book a career chat, hold a career chat, or close a career chat. That's a great item to have on your sixes list. Very productive activity. Book 2 new appointments. Book, hold, or close a career chat. Sell $100. That's another good productive one. Do your 6 most important things list every night. Might be on your list, all right? But you want to have 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are key daily habits that you want to be adopting. Those are some examples, all right? Although there's nothing in your homework this week that says create a brain book and choose one of these sheets and start using it, I want you to know that starting with lesson 3's homework, it is going to be there. So if you want to get a jump on this while it's fresh on your mind, look at those different daily call sheets, print the one that resonates with you. You might want to do some whiting out and adjusting of it to personalize it for you, because it's going to be an evolving process. But create one. If you have a system that's working for you already, don't change it. Okay? Just, maybe tweak it with some things you've learned. If you don't have a system, though, I'm giving you mine and telling you that it does work. All right, so let's look at your homework for this week. All right, back to screen sharing for the new week coming up. All right, so this is the point sheet that y'all have already turned in. Now, here's the new one. Homework assignment lesson 2. So here's your new point sheet for next week. All right, nothing's really changed up at the top except the date. Nothing's changed A through M. Really, the only thing that's changed are the dates and the 2 bonus activities. All right. Well, one is to post what you got out of this Zoom in Facebook. So that's similar to last week. But this one right here, this bonus, is to do a 7-day time study. A 7-day time study. Now you see this little asterisk right here? It refers to up here. We couldn't get it to fit, so we had to put it up here. You're going to do what I'm suggesting that you do, strongly suggesting, it'll be a huge eye opener, is to take a blank weekly plan sheet and log what you actually did do every 30 minutes for 7 days. Not what you plan to do, but what you actually did do. All right, so let's go back. You can start this right before you go to bed tonight. Go back to the weekly plan sheet, because you know if you're going to do it for 7 days, you got to start with today. All right, so let's go back to this weekly plan sheet, print it out, and then here we are on Thursday. So this is going to be today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, next Wednesday, and then you're going to take a picture of it and upload and send it to your director. So go back to, were you up at 6 a.m.? Between, 6 and 7, what did you do? What'd you do between 7 and 8? What'd you do between 8 and 9? What'd you do between 9 and 10? What'd you do between 10 and 11? Well, you know what you did between 8 and 9, you were on this Zoom Live. But you're actually going to log everything you actually did every 30 minutes. You ate, you bathed, you worked out, you worked your other job, whatever. Log it in. Log it in every 30 minutes. You're going to have a love-hate relationship with this. Just stick it in a clipboard and let it follow you around. Log it in. And then when you get to next Wednesday, you've got what you actually did every 30 minutes for an entire week logged. Okay? Then color code that. And let those colors speak to you. Now here's some suggested colors. Your director may like different colors. I don't care. I like to use pink and green for Mary Tech K time. I like to use green for money-making time, income-producing activities like booking, holding facials, holding parties, calling for reorders, doing career chats. That would be green time. Pink time is support time. So this Zoom Live would be pink. Going to your unit meeting without a guest would be pink. Going to your unit meeting with a guest would be green. Any of that secretarial work is pink. So you've got pink and green that you use for Mary Kay time. Then pick a color for family time. Pick a color for your other job. Pick a color for personal time, like when you work out, when you do your quiet time, when you do your bathing, hair, nail appointments, that kind of thing. I know usually when beauty consultants do this, they're so glad they did, because now they're dealing in reality, not in what they thought they did, but what they really did. And they thought, and it really takes away the guilt, because they go, gosh, I was feeling guilty because maybe I wasn't doing enough family time, but the family color is the biggest one in the page, that kind of thing. And guilt is just a useless emotion. I want you to be able to get rid of guilt, and this will take the guilt away. So 1,000 points when you do a time study. I also want to recommend this book. It's called Margin. I checked on Amazon, and you can get it for under $9 on your Kindle. It's by Richard Swenson, MD. And if you're one of those people that tends to have an overloaded life, you will love this book. The subtitle is Restoring Emotional, Physical, Financial, and Time Reserves to Overloaded Lives. Now, what is margin? What does that mean? I'll tell you just real quickly, give you an example of margin versus marginless living. Marginless is fatigue. Margin is energy. Marginless is red ink. Margin is black ink. Marginless is hurry. Margin is calm. Marginless is anxiety. Margin is security. Marginless is the disease of the new millennium. Margin is its cure. Margin. Restoring Emotional, Physical, Financial, and Time Reserves to Overloaded Lives. Highly recommend that book. It's not, again, it's not in your homework, but greatly recommended. I will tell you that if you continue to live a marginless life, whether there was not enough margin in your finances, not enough margin in your time, not enough margin in your energy, there is a severe long-term consequence to those. And it compromises your health. It compromises you being able to be the wife and mom and grandmom that you want to be. That stress leads to not only health challenges, but also it could lead to burnout. You could burn out. I'm constantly trying to teach my Mary Kay directors. Some of them, I'm not a type A personality. I've never been a workaholic. That's why working consistently just works for me. I work hard when I work hard when I work, but I play hard when I play. I don't have any trouble turning off the pink. Okay? But I have some directors that are type A personalities and they have a hard time turning it off. And I'm constantly saying, forget Mary Kay. Go to a movie. Go do something else, okay? If you're feeling stressed, go take a walk with your dog. Go work a crossword puzzle. Learn how to have me time and to turn it off. It's essential. I don't want you burning out. It's not worth it, okay? I once bought one of my directors a sign for the door of her office that said, "The office is closed." And I said, "You've got to start closing this door and stop walking in it all the time, because there's always more to do." If you think, well, I want to get that cleaned out with the refrigerator feeling, I just want to get it done, you're never going to get done. You just have to stop. And so tonight, we're just going to stop, okay? Because I could talk about this topic all day, but let me unmute you as a group. And that way, if you have any questions about our homework or anything and you need to ask me, you can. All right? Okay. Unmute everyone. All right. Does anybody have a question?
Who would that be?
Dorothy, it's Andrea. I don't have a question at the moment, but I just want to say I really found this to be quite useful tonight, this information. I mean, last week was too, but this one I think really hit home more than the others. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Andrea. Well, you know, this week and the next 2 weeks are going to be extremely practical, because tonight we're talking about time, and the last 2 weeks, both of those lessons are on money. Money and inventory management. And so it's also going to be very practical. So Andrea, I'm glad it helped. You know, there's lots of ways to put structure in your life and manage your life. I only know this way, and it started working for me with a brand new red jacket, and I've never done anything else, so I don't know why you would. You know, so I really encourage you all to go choose one of those pages, print out 30 copies, 3 punch it. I like my brain book. I use a zippered leather one that I get at Office Depot. I'm only on like the second one I've ever had, because I buy the nice leather ones that last me for 15 years. And that way I put all my papers in there. I mean, it's all in one place. And I bet if any one of my 3 adult children were here, and they are now 37, 31, and 29, and if I was to ask any of them randomly, have you ever seen me at any time go anywhere without my brain book? They'd go, no. They've never known life without their mother operating out of a brain book. They've never known life with their mother not always having an appointment book with her. They've never known life with a mother who didn't have a weekly plan sheet on the refrigerator, and they always knew when I was working and when I was off, because they could go on the refrigerator and read it. And if they didn't know, it wasn't my fault they didn't read it, right? Okay. Thank you, Andrea. Anybody else have a comment or a question?
For you.
Well, I'm just going to tell you right up front, you're going to hate me while you're logging your time study. There are going to be times you're going, good, I wish you hadn't made us do this. No fun. But you're going to love it at the end of the week. Okay? I promise. You're going to be glad you did. All right. So over and out, everybody. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you. Talk again week. Good night.
Good night.